The minecart sequence.
The Minecraft sequence.
I was watching this cart sequence, and I was just thinking in my head, this must have been a nightmare to make. How logistically this must have been a nightmare, because they used sound stages, and what they did was it would have been impossible to build this entire track on a soundstage. They needed about a quarter mile of track, and they really put them and made like basically roller coaster minecarts, real track, real actors and carts, and bombing. Spielberg, obviously, like I said, they can't build the entire track in a soundstage, so he came up with a pretty clever idea. So what they did was they built multiple levels of track in a circle, and they just filmed the same locations over and over again for different parts of track, adjusted the lighting, had some yellow lighting over here to make it look like a different area, some shadows over here. So they're passing the same turns over and over again for different parts of the minecart tunnel, but the different lighting and maybe prop differentials make it look like it's a different extension of the tunnel. But also, they had to do this with miniatures. And so Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, built a miniature cart set that had to be identical to the one they built on the soundstage. And though that full-size track was built in England with actors, the visual effects supervisor, Dennis Murren, and his team had an ingenious idea to, in order to make it look the same or look close enough, they had to have a smaller camera. And so what they did is they built their miniature set, which is about 60 foot of track.
They filmed with an iPhone?
About 60 feet of miniature track. Really beautiful stuff. And then they used a Nikon still camera modified to take about 40 feet of film at a time. And frame by frame with this small camera, which is basically a handheld, they went and made a miniature, basically, progression of the sequence on their miniature cart sets. And they modeled the makers. They even used tinfoil to create most of the rock work. And that small camera was also placed on wheels, rolled slowly by the cart. And again, one frame for every second of film. Then they'd have even little puppets inside the cart, which they would move their arms and heads and legs just to make it look like they're actually real humans moving. So every frame, push the camera forward, push the cart forward, adjust their arms and their heads.
Stop motion.
Incredible stop motion work, yeah. So it was really fantastic. So they built 2 sets, really.
Yeah, and like you said, the tinfoil, it's just they painted tinfoil and they wrinkled up the tinfoil, and a lot of the tunnel shots are just painted tinfoil.
It's nuts.
It's insane.
It looks so good.
And there are a few shots of it's clearly a tiny miniature with like a little figurine of Indian and short round.
It's pretty crude.
It's not. It doesn't look good.
The figures are crude.
But yeah, I mean, you're not supposed to like pause a movie in a theater.
Yeah.
They don't. So it's motion. So our brains don't pick it up.
And this is 84. Like, it was probably seamless back then.
And they also used a lot of blue screen, especially for the profiles of the actors. So they used a lot of the Photoshop, the stop motion footage they would shoot of the caverns in motion, and then they would put it in post and composite it behind the actors for some of the dialogue sequences. So it's a combination of practical, stop motion, and blue screen as well.
And sound was really important for the sequence as well. So Ben Burtt, the legendary sound designer, and his mixer, Gary Summers, they were faced with a tough challenge for how to get adequate sound effects for this entire minecart sequence. And what they did, they got permission to go to Disneyland after hours with no one at the park. They rode every single roller coaster multiple times with their microphones to get all of the sound effects that they needed, which was very helpful.
ILM actually created new technology and visual effects techniques because of this film. So they had done Star Wars, they had done the first Indy, so they were hugely in demand. And they had done Poltergeist. And they took on actually too many jobs than they could handle. And so Temple of Doom, they really didn't have enough time to do the shots properly because they had so many other jobs that they had accepted. So they were forced to basically, I think that great artists and companies or whatever, sometimes necessity and urgency creates better technique in a way and helps evolve. And so they were kind of at this situation where we don't have enough time to do these visual effects sequences the way we normally do it. And we're talking everything from the cult stuff to the minecart sequence to a couple of the other, like the plane, all these visual effects heavy post-production technique shots. And so they actually developed new techniques that blended stop motion with live action footage that they would make. And so, for example, an example of this is both Willie and that poor sacrificial guy. Poor guy.
The first one that goes down.
So when they're lowered into the volcanic
Real human was
pit.
sacrificed
Yes,
for this movie.
they did it for real. That was the technique. They're like, let's just do it for real. So you have multiple composites. You have the molten lava spinning in a circle. You have smoke. You have the structure of the interior. Then you have your subject being dropped down into the pit. These are all different elements that are put together. And they figured out we can't do this stop motion because we don't have the time for it. So a lot of this happened. They did a lot of this with the Minecart sequence too. So they figured out that they could film in real time. So things like the smoke and things like a lot of the movement in the Minecart sequence. So rather than shoot stop motion, we can combine. They figured out how to combine live footage that they were filming with the stop motion footage to make it a faster process that got the same effect, but sped up their work greatly, so that they were able to have the work done in time.
That's crazy.
So it pushed them to make new techniques for visual effects.
That first guy who gets lowered into the pit and gets lit on fire, that's a real animatronic body.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
the special effects guy built that.
They did the same thing for the bridge collapse. So they were all dummies that were mechanical and mechanized. So
their arms.
So the limbs would move as they fell.
So I love the rope bridge sequence. This chase sequence with the rope bridge in Temple of Doom was shot on 3 different continents.
Jesus.
And so they started in Sri Lanka, then they went to England, and then they went to America using 3 different states just to shoot this sequence. So one of the most complex shots in the entire film, on location in Sri Lanka, the production crew, they were lucky enough to discover a dam being constructed by British engineers in a massive valley. And that team was then hired to actually build a platform in the bridge spanning across that gorge. So that was actually, they got really lucky with that situation. And now,
wow, all real.
Yeah. And then, so they filmed that part in Sri Lanka, the big sequence with the full bridge, and also the bridge cracking in half or splitting in half, which was done with explosives, which they only had one take at, and which they didn't get to practice. And so they had to hope that it worked. And it did. And George Lucas actually came up with the brilliant idea of putting dust all over the bridge so that when it collapsed, it was sort of like an echo of the bridge with the dust was left over in the sky.
Smart.
Now, then after they filmed, obviously, the big bridge sequences with the main bridge before up until the explosive at the center, which obviously Indy cuts it. And then they moved to England, where they shot on platforms, just shooting up with cameras on a lot. But you're shooting up and you're just looking at the sky with the background. Sections of them hanging on
the walls.
Not yet.
Oh, no?
Sections of them hanging on the bridge as it's falling.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So as half of the bridge is like falling to the wall, they get shot to the
before
wall.
they hit its impact.
They're all just like hanging on and flying.
Gotcha.
And then they moved to their new location. I believe this one was in America, where they actually built a huge wall with the bridge laying down it and hanging off of it, and they shot the rest of the scene like that.
Very fun.
Plus different locations of getting to the bridge and leaving it.
And I think that you could definitely say Pirates of the Caribbean 2 lifted from this sequence.
Yeah, probably.
The bridge sequence in Dead Man's Chest is very, very reminiscent of the sequence.
Yeah, I think it's really terrific. It's so fun.
I love it. It's great.
And they really built that fucking bridge, man. Over like a 200-foot drop.
They really built that fucking thing. There are some incredible stunts and stuff that make this film so great, because you want that in indie films. And I would say the most ridiculous one is definitely the raft falling out of the helicopter.
What's ridiculous about that?
You know, Mythbusters tested this.
Really?
So they tested it, and they said they found out that it was possible. However, it was only possible if you used the raft as a parachute.
So you hold it up over your head?
Yeah, you had straps. If you have straps to it and then you put it over yourself and used it as a parachute, then you could survive that.
That's crazy.
But they really did drop it out of a plane. They did this in one take. They dropped a real raft out of a plane with Harrison Ford in it. No, it was dummies. They strapped some dummies to it, and then it actually impacted perfectly. It was just the one shot they used, and it was perfect and it looks good. It looks great.
Yeah, they did that Mammoth Peak in California.
Mammoth? No way.
Yeah.
Wow. So what do you think about, does it make total sense for the bad guys to just leave them and just waste a good plane?
Oh no, yeah. Every time I see this movie, so the situation obviously, Indy falls asleep. Everyone falls asleep. The pilots, Lao She, nice try, Lao She. Closes the door. It says Lao She. And so the big plan is to. It looks like they wait till they're out of China.
Yeah.
And then the pilots, they just kill the fuel, drain the fuel, and then jump out of the plane.
Yeah.
They could have just shot him, I guess.
Well, I don't think the pilots had guns.
Could have gave him guns.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Gave him a
Lao
knife.
She didn't know they were gonna get on. He was gonna get on that plane, but the way I look at it is like they radioed into the pilots like, "Hey, kill these guys."
Yeah.
And they probably didn't have weapons, so that's why they jumped off the plane. But they could have also just like landed back in China and taken them.
They could have, yeah.
They could have just turned around.
It's fun though.
No, but it's great. It's great. It's great.
He gets behind the
Just
wheel.
saying, plot. In indie films,
Tell me you know how to fly. No,
do you? Great line delivery. I fucking love it.
It's silly. This whole movie's camp, and then I mean, jumping out of a plane with a raft.
Yes.
And landing, and not being a pancake.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It's very James Bond, which Bond kind of does.
Yeah, Bond does similar things. He's done his extreme.
What's the one where Bond does the same thing, but his coat turns into like a giant raft bubble, like an inflatable bubble?
I don't know.
Remember that one? It happens twice because then another one, it's at the end of the movie. The girl is with him inside of it, I think. I think it's the Denise Richards one.
Did I know the day? James Bond.
Remember that? Inflatable jacket. Look that up.
Inflatable jacket.
You don't remember? It happens in a snowy environment.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
It closes around him.
It turns into like a giant orb.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is in... What film is this? World is Not Enough.
World is Not Enough.
Makes sense.